Hey guys, it's me again, Orc Slayer. What if where we last left off? Let's see. Checking. Well, I said I was going back and taking care of some of the different Deku what ifs, and here's what I'm continuing off on first. And we're going to continue off from what if Deku was a lamenter. So, quick story recap. Hisashi met Inko after he got separated. And I'm going to go over a list of the characters that should still be saved that actually have names. Alright. So we have Hisashi, Deku's dad. We have Aggron, the Dreadnought for the Lamenters. Never came up with a name for the captain. So he was just referred to as Captain. Then you got Nevron, Hisashi's brother, like more close of a brother than anything. Hisashi met Inko. Oh wait, no, I didn't stop, did I? I named off the characters. Sorry, I'm stopping and had to find the book. Hisashi, dad. Aggron, Dreadnought, captain of the Lamenters. Nevron, Hisashi's brother. There isn't anyone else I have named in the chapter yet, but there are other people aside from the chapter. You got the squad of Death Watch Marines. They had, keyword is had, an Inquisitor who was killed by his assassin that came. That was part of them. It wasn't an Everso. I believe an Everso is something that murders everybody. But then you have a Black Watch Marine, or not Black Watch, Black Templar as the sergeant of the squad. They have a Ultramarine as the medic. Then they got a few others that I have not named yet. Now, there's Deku, or Izuku, and Izumi. Izumi takes more after her mother, Inko, who's an Eldar Farseer, people who typically lead, if I remember, lead craft worlds or a high leadership position. Izumi took more after her mother with the psychic abilities than the physical aspects of Deku and her father, which are more robust and powerful. She has a boy, more like a boyfriend, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, or they haven't officially yet. You got Deku, who is very, very big. He's like massive. As I've explained, he's gigantic. I don't remember exact measurements. Like, I kept flipping back and forth because I couldn't find the exact measurements for a Space Marine. Because I either said, like, 8 feet. Like, this normal Space Marine's, like, 8 feet tall. I put them, to 10 feet tall. And that's about the size of Primarch. Or a Custodian. It's hard to tell. And to go on with this, he has a loadout. He has special modified Terminator armor. He has specially modified power armor to fit him. And his wings, which through traveling through the warp, like Sanguinius in a way, he was able to sprout wings. That was a very painful process though, as they didn't appear on his back. They were literally somewhat inside of his back. As an apothecary, had to cut him out. Then you had his years of training, which he excelled at to the point that he would have to fight to have a fair sparring, not even a serious fight. He would have to fight a Dreadnought, which is what they did since Aggron was the closest thing they had. He would do other things, such as when he was just not even fully grown yet, was able to take on a Terminator, a very high-ranking member of a Chaos Warband, who appeared through a warp portal, decked head to toe in full Terminator pattern, Terminator power armor, or tactical Dreadnought armor, whichever you prefer. He was able to kill him, and was actually pretty good at doing it, and did it pretty quickly considering. Now, his loadout consists of whatever weapons he really has available. He has a chainsword. He has a special pistol called, if I remember, Mercy. Because during a mission, how it got that tail is that he swore that he would use it. It was like Mercy. Sorry if you hear the dog whining. As you guys know, he gets jealous. I am not doing this with you. Go to bed. Just because you're jealous. I'm not paying attention to you. Yeah, it was Mercy, if I believe. But he got it after he had to, grimdark moment, he had to help relieve a child's suffering. Because a Nurgle, like a part of a Nurgle band, Chaos Band, had been teleported through a warp occurrence into a village of humans. And those viruses spread quickly. Deku and them took care of the Nurgle Marines and the demons that they had very, very quickly. They had to scorch the earth though, but they went as Deku learned that sometimes you have to make a hard decision, where the Inquisitor actually helped him with that. As they moved through the village and finished off every single civilian there, so that way the plagues don't spread. Because Nurgle's viruses and contaminations, there's no coming back from some of those. And so he had to deal with each and every one of them. As Deku did with a heavy heart. And all the lamenters were, since that's technically not what they want. But Deku allowed himself to do it, saying that it was for the good of more people. He compromised there, but then they had an occurrence in the future. Yeah, they had an occurrence in the future where I'll talk about Sato now. Sato, his sister's boyfriend or best friend, whichever he is at the moment, he and his family were having like a nice family outing, like because it was summer or something like that. What had happened is that Sato and them were sitting there, as then a portal opened where 3 Khorne berserkers showed up. As the Khorne berserkers came and ran at them, Sato, sugared up and then took to fighting them, as he had to beat them down. He literally had to. He killed one before Deku showed up, and Deku showed up with Izumi, and Deku showed up with a power mace and a shield, as he bashed the heads in of said Khorne berserkers. Sato was then offered by Deku to become a space marine. The process was a little bit rushed compared to others, but there was still a bit of time to do so. And with his DNA, his specific DNA being used to grow in these organs, as well as Deku giving Sato his Deku gave Sato his gene seed. So it was much more powerful, I would say. I believe there's a thing that gene seed has gone worse, because Space Marine apothecaries extract already grown gene seed from their fallen battle brothers, and that makes it less powerful, so it's diluted somewhat. So with Sato's special gene seed and more Deku's special gene seed, Sato's quite a bit more powerful than most Space Marines around. His brute strength, and now that he has more muscles, his quirk actually adds an effect to them where he's to the point of being as strong as a dreadnought when it comes to physical brute force. And like I said, dreadnoughts with pure strength alone sometimes are able to fight giant monsters, such as aka a greater demon. As we continue on with the story, No one else knows, in 1A at least, knows about what is up with the Space Marines. So we get over to Deku and them right now, where they had to fight through and get into UA, and they succeeded very rapidly. I also forgot to mention Momo. Early on, when Deku got back, he had saved Momo and her family from a Slaneshi cult that appeared and started, doing what Slanesh does, which is being absolutely disgusting. I really don't like them. They are foul and degenerates. They are the exact definition of degenerate. You get to Deku, who comes in and saves Momo as they were about to do something very bad. As he showed up, as in her eyes, he was like this avenging angel that flew up top with power armor on, as he slammed straight into the Chaos Cultist. No, wait, it wasn't even a cultist, it was a demon. And there was a high level cultist there. As he cut through them, as a squad of Terminators were following up behind him. As Terminators cleared the levels one by one, Deku held off an entire cultist group by himself, which was very easy, as he sliced through him with a chainsword and mercy in his hands. So, with that, Deku continuously saved lives, going in toe to toe. Now to skip forward, we get back to the point of the USJ, and that's when things went really, really wrong. Deku and them had a Chaos Sorcerer on the way when the Lamenters were able to get to Deku's world after they had finished fighting an entire Tzeentch warband. It may have just been one battleship, or not one ship of them, but that ship contained demons, dozens upon dozens of Psyker Space Marines, which suck to fight, and hundreds of cultists. Deku essentially had to not solo that battle, but he had to jump all around the place to help the Lamenters, as they had several lines of defense where Deku soloed a couple of greater demons. Lesser greater demons, of course, that weren't very powerful, but he got the jump on a few of them. He stabbed one in the back, saving others. Samson's back here whining at me. As Deku had to, like I said, solo fight that thing, as he was able to somewhat stretch through the warp after Inko and Izumi had tried contacting him through some possessions he had there, as he had somewhat been spiritually, I guess, tied to them. And so he was able to reach out and get the Psykers to do the same thing with him, where they used him pretty much as a homing beacon and were able to teleport ship with the help of Inko, Izumi, and the librarians that the Lamenters had there, which were probably just 10 librarians. Not a lot, but not too little either. I would say they have one chaplain per Space Marine chapter, but they also had built up numbers in that time that the Lamenters were stuck in that little, not pocket dimension, but little world. Deku was left behind, and he fought the Tzeentch warband, not to a standstill, not yet at least. He fought to somewhat of a standstill in a way that he was able to inflict enough damage that they didn't want to fight him, but some of the sorcerers thought they would want to see what sort of experiments they could perform on him. See if they could get him to turn, since they saw how great of a warrior he really was. So when they tried to snatch him up, Inko and them were able to snatch him their way, as the warriors, and especially a leader known as Fulcrum, was able to take one of Deku's angel wing, or one of his feathers, and carried them along the way. Getting tired. Deku, not Deku, but later on, he uses that feather to teleport to Deku's world again because his world was boarded, or his ship was boarded by Blood Angels, or one of the Blood Angel chapters. As with that, he used it to teleport away, and the Blood Angels had officially come upon his Deku's feathers. So they were gonna use them as they Fulcrum had used it labeled as Angel's feathers, as they took it as maybe being an item of Sanguinius's or something like that. They wouldn't know how someone got their hands on it, but they thought maybe it is. So they took it and ran. Not ran, they took it and went home to Baal, the home of the Blood Angels. Fulcrum had appeared and... sorry, kind of tired. Fulcrum had showed up in the My Hero universe and has been helping All For One, and he has helped Shigaraki upgrade his power tremendously by turning him into a Space Marine and having Shigaraki kill a Space Marine while he was a Scout Marine. Which Shigaraki's getting much more tough love in this, instead of being just told, you can do everything, you can do it. He's being taught how he can fail and he will fail. And Shigaraki is much more mature this time around. He isn't just, a childish man-child. As now we cut back to Deku, as the villains failed their attack, and Deku and Izumi went into the Black Rage after Hazashi had somewhat sacrificed himself to buy some time, as he was blown. He lost an arm, a leg, and a lot of his torso. So, as Deku and Izumi are carted away, everyone in 1A is like, what the frick? What is this? We have no idea. As they're all freaking out, the Lamenters have been cut down quite a bit. At the moment, they only have 75 Battle Brothers that can fight. As they're scouring through the fields, they're able to find a few more, so now they're back up to over 100. They had 150 when they started. And Coronate bodies and demons, and all, not demons, but the Coronate Berserkers are still all around, where Deku had cut them in half, ripped them, shot them, whatever he could. As they immediately, as the librarians, he tells them that the taint of chaos isn't here. We had used our own ritual to counteract it. As they turn towards Inko, and bow, saying, "Thank you for your assistance, Lady Inko." As she's like, "It was my pleasure, librarian. Now come, we must deal with my children." And she thanks, "and my husband." As she rushes over to where Hazashi is, he's like, "Ugh." As he's bleeding profusely, he's like, "I'm still alive." As the apothecaries run over as an apothecary comes to run over, he's like, "Do not worry, brother, we shall assist you." As this one, I'm not going to be using the voice editor for this video. I'm just going to be doing little not voices, but I'm just going to be talking normally. As we skip over to a couple of days later, as he's being dealt with, Captain walks over to Neveron. He's like, "He will be fine, but we must know what to deal with now." As he's looking around, there is many children around here, and as far as we know, there may be more cultists. Send out squads to search the remaining area and to gather up the rest of the students. Understood? As Neveron's like, "Yes, sir." As the Lamenters spread out and round up all the students, as the squad of Death Watch were still around, as they're like, "This bloody. Hopefully the children are not tainted." As the Black Templar, who's, like I said, the sergeant, I will just be referring to as Sergeant. He's like, "I highly doubt it. None of them must have been in contact with a lot of the Cornet berserkers, or even any of the cultists for that matter. They should be fine, but be wary. Not many of the lamenters are willing to do what is necessary. So, as they follow this, Bakugo comes over as he's like, what just happened? As the giant men in metal armor come over and grab him, and they start escorting them over to the area. As all the students of UA are round up, eventually the whole, class, the teachers show up as they all show up, they see that there is blood, guts, and dead Marines everywhere. As they're like, what? And Nezu's like, now this is quite unexpected. As they're looking around, they see Aizawa's fine, or more fine than usual. As they see giant men in suits of armor with the bleeding heart on a checkered background. As they're like, explain who you are. What is your name? As they see them kneeling down, as they see some soldiers kneeling down and speaking with the students. As the captain comes over, he says, halt, what is your name and state your business? He's like, my name is Principal Nezu. I am the principal of the school, and I would like to know what you have done with my students. It's like, there is much you must be made aware of, Nezu. As he pretty much gets Nezu and quite a few of the teachers over there to them, where there's let's see, as they start explaining to the staff of UA, as there's Power Loader, Vlad King, Snipe, Midnight, Present Mike, and several others there. Cementas, Hound Guy. As they're having it explained to them what exactly happened, as they're like, but where did the strange fellow come from? It's like, he's from where we are. And where would that be? As Nevron is there to explain, trying to help explain and fill in some parts. As Deku's having this, as Nevron is explaining parts of it, what's happening and all that, so that way there's no misinformation. Get over here. So there's no mix up of information or misinformation. As Nezu finally pops the big question, where did they come from and who exactly are you? As they go on to explain that, where they from, of course a few of the teachers are skeptical, especially Present Mike and Midnight are actually very skeptical of what they're actually saying is true. Well, let's just say all of them are. But as Power Loader says, well, Yama does seem more advanced than anything I've ever seen. Though my students would probably love to get their hands on it. Especially that one. As he thinks back to May, she would have a field day with it. As Nevron says, we will be taking over looking after these students for a little while. We must ensure the taint does not set in or any taint is present. And she's like, and what would happen if the taint is present? As Captain just looks at him since he has his helmet on, he's stares at him, then just walks away. He's like, that doesn't mean what I think it means. As Nevron just looks at him, then walks away again. As they're like, as they're trying to process this, they see a librarian come over to explain the details of how they'll go about ensuring the children aren't tainted. And they recommend not letting anyone else aside from the UA staff or any police, nobody in. There is a villain out there though, as they explain that All Might fellow launched a villain outside of the arena. As they're like, oh dearie, I guess we should check that. As that's the whole situation. As we skip 2 days later, or not skip 2 days, let's just continue. As we skip to maybe 2 hours later, where the students are, let's just say they've been teleported to the Lamenter's ship. as they were teleported there, all the students were like, wow, look at all this. And so, like, as a few of them were like, Tutor, do you think they're going to kill us? As Bakugan was like, shut it. Shut it, dunce head. We don't need this. As they're moving forward, Sato is like, as it's like, Sato, so you know these guys? As he looks at them, like, yeah, these are my battle brothers, in a way. As he went up, like, try to help explain things to them, as he's like, do not be afraid. They shall not hurt you. Trust me. As when they get there, they hear, like, not off in distance, but they somewhat feel the atmosphere is tense, where the people are looking at them, as when all the students are being transported to a room to have everything explained to them and be checked, they see a man with nothing but mechanical parts walk, or more like slither past them, as he looks at them like, more meat bags. As he's like, hey, who you call a meat bag? As he turns to him, he's like, would you like to be turned into a servitor? As Sato said, back off, tech priest. Return to your duties. As he's like, as he slithers away. So, yeah. So, anyways. Yeah, you're a dirty dog. Anyways. As they get to a room where the librarians explain everything to them and check them out. As they're like, so, what happened with Midoriya and them? As they're like, the Midoriyas, they have an affliction, unfortunately. As even Todoroki's like highly interested in this. As it's like, what happened is, he explains that they have been contracted the Black Rage. As he goes on to explain what it is, and that it's a disease, somewhat, a disease of the mind, where the person is sent back to our ancestors in a way, and to revel in a battle that they fought long ago. Unfortunately, it may be much worse. Well, much better considering that they are half-breeds, technically. Since from what we have learned, their father Hizashi, he is now what you refer to as a quirk person, whereas his augmentations are his quirk, and they will be passed down. As they raise their hand, does that mean you guys could have kids now? And that will pass it down. As he goes to raise his hand and speak, he's like, I'm not certain. But that is highly unlikely. Most Space Marines have been unable. In a way, they are not. It's not that they are not able to. It's just that concept is just gone. They do not need it. It's no longer a base instinct anymore. Hizashi was here for over 100 years, hundreds of years before anything like that was able to be set in motion. Probably be the same for the rest of us. He's like, alright, that makes sense. What will happen to Hizashi? Well, we heard a big explosion, and we thought he might have been here, if that was true. As Sato was asking that, not asking that, as he looks down, he's like, Hizashi is gravely injured. We shall see soon if he is able to prevail. It's like, oh, sorry, it is fine. As he looks away. As we skip to Deku, as he's still dealing with the Black Rage, as he's snapping back and forth, he's like, of course. But now he's starting to slowly but surely calm down. Skip to Izumi, who is much worse. Much, much worse. She has a lot more anger to work through. But she seems to be less erratic than Deku. So, and I think that's where I'm going to be ending this one off at. I'm sorry it took me a while to post, guys, but I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you guys continue this, and I hope you guys enjoy that this series is back. Have a nice day, nice night, nice life.